You walk around thinking you're living your truth, being yourself, following your path. What a beautiful delusion. You're actually a professional actor who forgot they were acting. Every word you speak, every choice you make, every belief you hold was programmed into you by people who didn't know themselves either. You're a copy of a copy of a copy, and you call it originality. You defend opinions that aren't yours with passion that isn't real about a life that isn't authentic. If this message found you today, it's because your inner wisdom is staging an intervention. Your true self pulled this into your reality as a lifeline, a wake-up call, a last chance to stop the charade. If you're genuinely ready for this transformation, consider liking and subscribing. But warning, what you're about to discover will destroy everything you thought was real. You think you know yourself. You wake up every morning, look in the mirror, and believe the reflection staring back is the real you. You tell yourself stories about your personality, your values, your desires. You confidently declare what you like and dislike, what matters to you, what defines you. And here's the brutal truth that will shake your entire foundation. Almost everything you believe about yourself is a lie. If you're hearing this right now, it's because something deep inside you already knows this truth. Your inner wisdom pulled this message into your reality because you're finally ready to stop running, ready to face what you've been avoiding for years, maybe decades. If you genuinely enjoy this kind of content, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps. Let me tell you something about the identity you're so proud of. You didn't create it, you inherited it. Every opinion you hold dear, every preference you defend, every trait you claim as uniquely yours, where did it really come from? You learned to smile when you wanted to cry because someone taught you tears were weakness. You learned to stay quiet when you wanted to speak because someone showed you that your voice wasn't welcome. You learned to chase success you don't even want because someone convinced you it was the only path to worth. You walk around believing you're living your truth, but you're actually performing a role written by your parents, your teachers, your culture, your fears. You're an actor who forgot they were acting, a puppet who can't see the strings. And the most pathetic part, you defend this false identity with everything you have. You get angry when someone questions your beliefs. You feel threatened when life challenges your self-image. You cling to your limitations like they're treasures. You actually believe that being busy makes you important. You think that pleasing everyone makes you good. You assume that following the rules makes you worthy. You've convinced yourself that your exhaustion is noble, your conformity is wisdom, your fear is caution. Listen to how ridiculous you sound. You're literally fighting to stay in a cage while holding the key in your hand. Here's what you do every single day without realizing it. You wake up and immediately put on your costume. Not physical clothes, but psychological armor. You slip into the character of the responsible adult, the caring friend, the dedicated worker. You speak in voices that aren't yours, using words you've memorized from scripts you didn't write. You make choices based on expectations you've never questioned. You go to social events and transform into whoever the room needs you to be. Funny with the comedians, serious with the intellectuals, sympathetic with the complainers. You're a shapeshifter without a true form, a chameleon who's forgotten their original color, and you call this being social. You call this having friends. You call this connection. But late at night, when the performance ends and the audience goes home, what happens? You feel empty. You feel lost. You feel like something essential is missing from your life, but you can't name it. You scroll through your phone seeking distraction. You fill your schedule with more activities. You do anything to avoid sitting alone with yourself because deep down, you know the terrifying truth. Without your performance, you have no idea who you are. You mistake your habits for your identity. You think because you've always been shy, that's who you are. You believe because you've always been the helper, that's your purpose. You assume because you've always avoided conflict, you're naturally peaceful. These aren't truths about your nature. They're survival strategies you developed as a child and never outgrew. Think about this. When you were young, you tried on different ways of being like clothes. You tested boundaries, expressed emotions freely, explored possibilities. But every time you showed a part of yourself that wasn't acceptable, what happened? You got punished. Not always obviously. Sometimes just with a look, a sigh, a withdrawal of affection. And your brilliant, adaptive brain learned quickly. Hide this part, emphasize that part. Become what they want. Survive. You became an expert at reading rooms before entering them. You developed radar for other people's expectations. You learned to anticipate needs, manage emotions, prevent conflicts, all before you learned to tie your shoes. And everyone praised you for it. Good child, so mature, so responsible. They rewarded you for betraying yourself, and you learned to call that betrayal love. Now you're an adult still playing by childhood rules. You're still that small person trying to earn approval, avoid rejection, stay safe. You've just gotten better at hiding it. You've developed sophisticated explanations for your limitations. You've built entire philosophies around your fears. You've created elaborate justifications for why you can't be who you really are. You tell yourself you're being realistic when you're being cowardly. You say you're being considerate when you're being dishonest. You claim you're being practical when you're being dead inside. And the saddest part? You've done this for so long that you believe your own propaganda. You've become your own prison guard, your own oppressor, your own enemy. Let me share something about this elaborate disguise you wear. Every time you laugh at jokes that aren't funny, every time you agree with opinions you don't hold, every time you stay silent when you want to scream, you're feeding a monster. This monster is your false self, and it grows stronger with every betrayal of your truth. It demands more sacrifices, more compromises, more lies, until one day the real you is so buried, so forgotten, so atrophied from lack of use that you genuinely believe the monster is who you are. You've become addicted to approval like a drug. You need your daily fix of validation, recognition, acceptance. You'll do anything to get it, abandon your dreams, betray your values, sacrifice your happiness. And just like any addiction, the high gets shorter, the crash gets harder, and the dose needs to keep increasing. You need more likes, more praise, more confirmation that your performance is working. But it's never enough because you're trying to fill a hole that can only be filled by being yourself. Here's a question that will haunt you. When was the last time you did something simply because you wanted to? Not because it was expected, not because it was responsible, not because it would impress someone, just because your soul called for it. You can't remember, can you? Because you've been living as a committee instead of an individual. Every decision filtered through a boardroom of internalized voices. What will they think? What will they say? What will they expect? Comment below and tell me about the last time you felt truly yourself, completely authentic, with no masks or pretenses. When was that moment? You've surrounded yourself with people who only know your performance. They love your mask, not your face. They're attached to your character, not your soul. And you're terrified that if you drop the act, you'll lose them all. Here's the truth that will set you free and terrify you in equal measure. You're right, you will lose them. The people who only loved your performance will leave when the show ends. But here's what you refuse to see. Those aren't your people. They never were. You want to know the most disturbing part about your fake life. The real you isn't gone. It's right there, screaming beneath the surface, banging on the walls of your consciousness, demanding to be heard. But you've become an expert at drowning out that voice. You stay busy so you don't have to listen. You surround yourself with noise so you don't have to hear. You fill every moment with distraction so you don't have to feel. You think your biggest fear is failure, but that's another lie you tell yourself. Your biggest fear is meeting who you really are, because that person might want things that disrupt your carefully constructed life. That person might have feelings you've labeled unacceptable. That person might demand changes you're not prepared to make. So what do you do with all these inconvenient truths about yourself? You bury them. Every desire that doesn't fit your image, every emotion that threatens your stability, every thought that challenges your worldview, you push it down into the darkness. You create a graveyard of rejected selves, and then you wonder why you feel haunted. Here's what you refuse to understand. Everything you hide from others, you're really hiding from yourself. That anger you won't admit to feeling, it doesn't disappear. It turns into passive aggression, sudden outbursts, mysterious headaches. That sadness you won't let yourself express, it becomes the weight you carry, the exhaustion you can't explain, the numbness that steals your joy. That desire you pretend doesn't exist, it becomes the obsession you project onto others, the judgment you cast, the resentment that poisons your relationships. You walk around thinking you're so evolved, so mature, so in control. But you're actually a collection of defense mechanisms pretending to be a person. You've mistaken your coping strategies for your personality. You've confused your trauma responses for your preferences. You've identified with your survival tactics instead of your authentic self. Let me tell you about the parts of yourself you've thrown away. Remember when you were creative before someone told you art was impractical? That creativity didn't die. You murdered it and buried the body. Remember when you were passionate before someone called you too intense? That passion didn't fade. You suffocated it and pretended it never existed. Remember when you were curious before someone labeled you annoying? That curiosity didn't disappear. You locked it in a basement and threw away the key. And now you walk around feeling half alive, wondering why nothing excites you anymore. You've become so good at suppressing yourself that you've forgotten what it feels like to be fully human. You've traded your aliveness for safety, your authenticity for approval, your truth for comfort. And you call this maturity. You call this being an adult. You call this success. You know what's truly pathetic? You judge others for displaying the exact qualities you've buried in yourself. You see someone expressing anger and you call them unstable, but you're really jealous of their freedom to feel. You see someone pursuing their dreams and you call them unrealistic, but you're really mourning your own abandoned aspirations. You see someone being vulnerable and you call them weak, but you're really longing for that kind of courage. Your judgments are confessions. Your criticisms are projections. Your reactions reveal your repressions. Every time you have a strong emotional response to someone else's behavior, you're looking at a piece of yourself you've disowned. But instead of reclaiming these parts, you attack them in others. You become the same judge who once condemned these qualities in you. Here's the game you play without realizing it. You create elaborate stories about why you can't be yourself. You're too old to change. You have responsibilities. You can't afford to take risks. These aren't reasons, they're excuses. They're the bars you've built around your own cage. They're the chains you've forged link by link through years of self-betrayal. You think your shadow is your enemy. You think those dark, rejected parts of yourself are dangerous, evil, wrong. But here's what you don't understand. Your shadow contains your power. Every quality you've hidden holds a gift. Your suppressed anger is your boundary-setting ability. Your buried sadness is your capacity for depth. Your rejected wildness is your creative force. Your denied sexuality is your life energy. You've been running from the very things that would make you whole. But you'd rather stay broken than face your shadow. You'd rather remain incomplete than integrate your darkness. You'd rather live as half a person than risk being seen as imperfect. So you continue projecting your shadow onto others. You marry people who express what you can't. You hate people who embody what you won't. You admire people who live what you don't dare. You create entire relationships based on others playing out your repressed parts. You find partners who are emotional because you can't be. You attract friends who are irresponsible because you won't let yourself be. You surround yourself with people who live out your unlived life, and then you complain about them. You judge them. You try to fix them, not realizing you're trying to fix the parts of yourself you see in them. Here's a truth that will shake you. Every quality you admire in others exists within you. Every trait you despise in others lives inside you. You are everything you love and everything you hate. You contain multitudes, but you've reduced yourself to a single note. You're a symphony pretending to be a doorbell. You think being good means having no darkness. You think being worthy means having no flaws. You think being lovable means having no edges. So you sand yourself down, smooth yourself out, make yourself palatable. You become vanilla in a world hungry for flavor. You become beige in a universe of color. And then you wonder why you feel invisible. The parts of yourself you've rejected don't go away. They go underground. They operate in shadow, influencing your choices without your awareness. You think you're choosing your life, but you're really being driven by unconscious forces. You're a puppet to parts of yourself you won't acknowledge, a slave to aspects you won't face. Tell me in the comments, what quality in others triggers you the most? That strong emotional reaction is pointing you directly to a part of yourself you've rejected. You've been taught that wholeness means perfection. That integration means having no contradictions. That self-acceptance means liking everything about yourself. These are lies that keep you fragmented. Wholeness means embracing your contradictions. Integration means accepting your paradoxes. Self-acceptance means acknowledging all of yourself, not just the pretty parts. So here you are, standing at the crossroads between who you've been pretending to be and who you really are. You want to know how to find your true self. Stop looking for it. Your true self isn't lost. It's not hiding in some mystical realm waiting to be discovered. It's right here, right now, screaming through every symptom you try to medicate, every pattern you can't break, every longing you can't explain. You think finding yourself is about adding something new. You imagine you'll take a course, read a book, have an experience that will suddenly reveal who you are. But finding yourself is about subtraction, not addition. It's about removing the layers of conditioning, peeling away the false beliefs, dismantling the protective structures you've built. You don't become yourself. You unbecome everything that isn't you. Here's what you refuse to accept. The journey to your true self leads through everything you've been avoiding, through the feelings you won't feel, through the truths you won't speak, through the fears you won't face. You want a comfortable path to authenticity. but comfort is what got you lost in the first place. You know what's stopping you from being real. You're still trying to be good. You're still seeking approval from judges who exist only in your head. You're still performing for an audience that left the theater years ago. You're fighting battles that ended in childhood. You're following rules written by people who didn't know who they were either. Let me tell you what happens when you start being yourself. People get uncomfortable. They liked the old you, the predictable you, the you who didn't challenge their own facades. When you change, you force them to look at their own pretenses. When you get real, you expose their fakeness. When you choose authenticity, you reveal their compromises. You think you need their permission to be yourself. You're waiting for someone to tell you it's okay to be who you are. You're looking for approval to exist authentically. Here's your wake-up call. That permission will never come. Those people are too busy maintaining their own masks to validate you removing yours. You want to know the secret to becoming yourself? Start saying no. No to obligations that drain you. No to relationships that diminish you. No to beliefs that limit you. Every no to what you're not is a yes to what you are. But you're terrified of disappointment. You'd rather disappoint yourself every day than disappoint others once. Here's what real transformation looks like. It's not beautiful. It's not inspiring. It's messy, uncomfortable, and often painful. It's crying in your car because you finally felt something real. It's losing friends who only loved your performance. It's facing the void where your false identity used to be. It's sitting with the discomfort of not knowing who you are when you're not pretending. You think you want to find yourself, but what you really want is to find a better version of your false self, a more successful mask, a more impressive performance, a more acceptable character. You're not seeking truth. You're seeking an upgrade to your lie. You want transformation without change, healing without hurt, growth without loss. The real journey requires you to become comfortable with contradiction. You are both strong and weak, both confident and insecure, both loving and angry, both generous and selfish. You contain all possibilities, but you've been taught to choose sides. You've been conditioned to present consistency when your nature is multifaceted. You've spent years developing your prison, and now you've become institutionalized. You know every corner of your cage. You've decorated the walls. You've made it comfortable. The thought of freedom terrifies you more than captivity, because at least captivity is familiar. At least in prison, you know what to expect. Here's the most important truth you need to hear. Your authentic self doesn't need improvement. It doesn't need fixing. It doesn't need perfecting. It needs expression. It needs space. It needs permission to exist without judgment, without editing, without apology. But you keep trying to heal yourself into acceptability. You do therapy to become more normal. You meditate to become more peaceful. You exercise to become more attractive. Everything you do is still about becoming acceptable rather than becoming yourself. You've turned even self-discovery into another performance. You want a step-by-step guide to finding yourself. Here it is. Stop lying. Start with the small lies, the automatic agreements, the polite deceptions. Notice every time you say yes when you mean no. Notice every time you smile when you're sad. Notice every time you apologize for existing. These moments are your practice ground. Next, start feeling without fixing. When emotion arises, don't immediately try to change it, explain it, or make it go away. Sit with the discomfort. Let the feeling complete its circuit through your body. You've been short-circuiting your emotional system for years and then wondering why you feel numb. Then, begin speaking your truth in small doses, not to hurt others, not to rebel, but simply to practice being honest. Start with strangers, then acquaintances, then the people closest to you. Watch how the world doesn't end when you're real. Notice how some people actually prefer the authentic you. Here's what nobody tells you about finding yourself. It's not a one-time event. It's a daily practice of choosing truth over comfort, authenticity over approval, reality over pretense. Every moment presents a choice to be real or be fake. And most moments, you'll still choose fake because it's easier. But slowly, the real moments will increase. You think when you find yourself, you'll finally be happy. But happiness isn't the goal. Aliveness is. When you're authentic, you'll feel the full spectrum of human experience. The joy will be more joyful, but the pain will be more painful. You've been living in the middle, numb and safe. Authenticity means feeling everything fully. The path to your true self isn't about becoming special. It's about becoming ordinary in the most profound way. It's about being exactly what you are without apology or pretense. It's about occupying your life fully instead of standing outside watching yourself perform. You're not here to be perfect. You're not here to be liked. You're not here to be understood. You're here to be yourself in all your messy, contradictory, ever-changing glory. But you keep trying to earn your right to exist. You keep trying to justify your presence. You keep trying to prove your worth. Your existence is your worth. Your being is your justification. Your presence is your right. Here's your final wake-up call. You can spend the rest of your life perfecting your mask, improving your performance, upgrading your cage. Or you can choose the terrifying, exhilarating, transformative path of being yourself. Not your best self, not your ideal self, not your potential self, your actual, real, present self. The choice is yours, chosen ones. But know this, every moment you spend being fake is a moment of your real life unlived. Every day you wear the mask is a day your true face never sees the sun. Every year you perform is a year your authentic self remains in exile. Stop waiting for permission. Stop seeking approval. Stop perfecting your prison. The door has always been open. You've always had the key. The only question is, are you finally ready to walk through?